So today I'm going to do a little bit of maintenance on my apple and pear trees. Now it is a kind of a wet, rainy day out here, which is perfectly fine for taking care of what I want to take care of today. Now my apple tree is in the post-bloom, post-flower stage, and the flowers have already bloomed and started, started disappearing and kind of folding up. And so they're already done flowering. And I had taken care of all the three sprayings. I did the during the late winter, early spring. I did the horticulture and dormant oil spray. Then I did the copper fungicide spray before the rains came and before it was raining quite often. And then I took care of the neem oil in the early springtime. And then I waited for the flowers to set, and then the flowers are currently in its post bloom phase, which means that it's now time to go ahead and fertilize my apple and pear trees. Now I'm not going to fertilize the pear tree just because it's a late bloomer, and on top of that, it's just got planted into the ground. So I'm going to give it time to get acclimated first before I do too much fertilizing and taking care of too many of those kind of things. Now, as I told you before, with the fertilizing, I have a 12-inch pot, and with the Job's organic fruit and citrus granule plant food, it's typically about 1.5 tablespoons per 4-inch diameter. So with it being 12-inch diameter, it's going to be basically 4.5 tablespoons, more or less. It's these things work pretty good. They're not like fertilizer spikes that can really be harmful if you over fertilize it. I would still recommend you go ahead and do what is listed on the instruction manual on the back here, and stay with that recommendations. And then if your plant is struggling, or you're not sure exactly how much fertilizer you should put, of course, it's always better to under fertilize than over fertilize. Also, read the scheduling on your fertilizing. I fertilize my apple trees and pear trees 3 times a year. I also will document today, which is I think May the 6th here in Zone 8B in the Pacific Northwest. And my next fertilizing schedule is 6 weeks at a minimum. 6 weeks is the time frame when I will fertilize my apple tree again. So I'll go ahead and document it on my little clipboard sheet of paper, letting me know all the to-do tasks for my apple and pear trees, and then I check them off, and then that way I get on the schedule and I don't have to kind of second guess whether or not I've done what I needed to do. But that's a little bit about that. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our apple tree. It's as you can see, it's starting to rain pretty good here now. With the apple tree, I don't mind fertilizing on a wet, rainy day. Actually, I like it that way because the granules I have, I can just go ahead and sprinkle on here, and I'll do that, and then it'll work its way into the soil. But I also like to just kind of mix in the soil a little bit. Just give it a little help. Make sure that they don't just roll off later on. It was fairly windy yesterday. If you saw my video that I posted yesterday, you'll notice that it was fairly windy yesterday. And I'll just go ahead and mix it in there a little bit, just the top portion. It'll be just fine. Now, the reason why I haven't added any soil acidifier or anything of that nature into the apple tree is the main reason is unlike citrus trees, apple trees and pear trees, they don't like it quite as acidic soil. Now, granted, over time here in Zone 8B in most areas, the soil is going to be slightly more alkaline at a higher rate than what they like. And so what I occasionally do is, when I replant my seedlings, whether it's my tomatoes, peppers, or whatever I have that grew in the Jiffy Peat pellets, I actually take those, and any excess little peat moss pellets that I have remaining, I just kind of crumble them up and just kind of mix a couple into this pot, into the soil. And it gives it the extra little bit of push to get that soil to be a little bit more acidic. I don't need to add the soil acidifier or any other mix or solution to get my soil more acidic like I do with my citrus plants, which citrus plants love acidic soil, so, and they're heavy feeders, and so I do have to regularly make sure that the soil is more acidic. But with apple trees and pear trees, being on the less acidic side is okay. They still, you know, over time the soil does get more alkaline, so by just me adding that little bit of Jiffy peat pellet mix that's left over when I do my replants, retransplants for my tomatoes and peppers is perfectly fine. I'm not doing it all the time. I may do it, do one or two of the little Jiffy peat pellets that are left behind. Like this is exactly a prime example. So this one here, this was for something else, and I'll just crumble it up like this and just sprinkle it on here, and it keeps the soil a little more acidic. And then also you're kind of reusing, recycling, right? And so it's perfect, right? You know, I try not to waste as much as possible. If there's something I can use, or if there's something I can reuse or use for some other purpose, I try to do that. Now, this flower here is still kind of, you know, closing up, but as you can see, most of the flowers on this apple tree is has been completed. It's in its post-bloom phase. So the fruit will set as long as it got pollinated. The situation I have right now is unfortunately a couple of my neighbors who had apple trees had either planted it in their backyard when they were in pots in the front yard. And so I'm hoping that there's enough apple trees in my neighborhood for my dwarf apple tree here to get you know, pollinated and the fruit will set. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, then I'll deal with the situation this summer by buying another apple tree. I got so many apple trees and fruit trees and citrus trees and other trees here in the area at home here. And I really have to be careful about how many trees I want to have, whether I plant them in the ground or I have them in pots. Plus, you know, it takes time to maintain them. I do travel a lot for work. I travel overseas a lot. And so, you know, you have to really think about exactly, do you have the space, the time, and willing to, you know, commit to doing this, because once you buy a fruit tree, it's not like you're going to get rid of it right away, and then kind of a lot of times you're stuck with it. So you want to make sure that you're committed to it, have the space for it, and have the time, and you're going to be around to be able to maintain it. It's really difficult when I'm overseas for long stretches of time to get somebody to come over here and take care of what I need to. First of all, they don't understand what needs to be done, and then secondly, a lot of times having them committed to getting it done is very difficult. So let me give you a recap of what I did today. So with the apple tree, it's in its post-bloom phase. So it was time to fertilize. Based on the Job's fruit and citrus fertilizer that I use for the apples and pear trees, specifically not my citrus trees, it's 1.5 tablespoons per 4-inch diameter. I have a 12-inch diameter pot, so that's basically 4.5 tablespoons. I sprinkle around the tops of that. I will kind of work it in within the last top inch. And then because it's raining today, the rain will just go ahead and help mix it in, and it'll work its way through the soil. Now, after the post-bloom phase, supposed to wait 6 weeks before you fertilize again. So within the next 6 weeks, hopefully the fruit has the fruit has been the flowers have been pollinated, the fruit sets. Hopefully the fruit is about dime size, hopefully in the next 6 weeks, and we'll re-fertilize again in the 6-week period. And so that's all I need to do. There's a few leaves that has some bug bites on it, not too dramatic. I'm going to monitor exactly how the leaves are. If I see too many leaves for my liking that have bug bites on it, I'll come back out here with neem oil. You can use neem oil pretty religiously. you can go ahead and take that neem oil and go ahead and spray it down to help with the leaves and the branch and keep the insects away. So that's a little bit about the maintenance so far in mid-spring, and I'll be back in touch.